warmly. I've shared the stage with him actually on more than two occasions. But what's more important is I've long admired and appreciated his work, both in collaboration with Dr. Zachariah and alone. So it really is a pleasure to come and say a few words to you today at this really important gathering of the International Institute of Migration and Development, which is, as we all know, a seminal homegrown institution deeply dedicated to undertaking rigorous research on all matters relating to migration. Manifest in the Institute's immense contributions in the field of migration research is your firm commitment to evolve rapidly into India's largest interdisciplinary research network in the field of migration, a research network that will boast of a colossal nexus of international migration experts as well. You know, it was Salman Rushdie who once remarked that we live in the age of migration. There are more people now living in countries in which they were not born than in the rest of human history combined. This fact finds an echo in the wide range of the Institute's activities, which run a glorious gamut, such that the Institute is simultaneously a platform for debate, research, policy analysis, and community engagement. And I must say, it takes place at a global, at a national, and at a local level. In fact, by also collaborating with sundry governments and NGOs, the Institute discharges an imperative humanitarian duty, that of offering succor and solace to refugees, diasporic migrants, and migrant laborers, of whose agony during the COVID-19 pandemic we are all acutely aware. Now, an institution is, of course, in many ways a reflection of its founder, and how long a shadow an institution casts and how enduring a legacy it leaves behind is dependent largely on the prestige and vision of he who breathed life into it. If the International Institute of Migration and Development has, through its brilliant work, achieved acclamation and eminence the world over, it's largely owing to the stature and erudition of this gentleman right here, the founder-president, Professor K.C. Zachariah, whose 100th birth anniversary we've all gathered here today to celebrate. To our profound sadness, of course, Professor Zachariah passed away in January this year. But as most of you who interacted closely with him over the years know, he was not one who would have wanted us to lament his passing, still less to compose lugubrious elegies in his honor. Instead, he would have wanted us to celebrate how far the International Institute of Migration and Development has come, and to reflect on what more we ought to do to propel this institution in Kerala to greater heights still. This, of course, we shall talk about, but allow me to take a moment to dwell on the extraordinary life and legacy of Professor Zachariah, a man who over the course of a life lived to the fullest, donned many hats, characteristically excelling in each role he played. Having taken a PhD in sociology from the University of Pennsylvania, Professor Zachariah embarked on an illustrious and equally peripatetic academic career, which spanned 3 continents and 5 cities, including Mumbai, where he served as Deputy Director of the International Institute of Population Sciences, Cairo, where he served as a United Nations expert on demography, and Washington, D.C., where he made history as a senior demographer of the World Bank. Upon retiring from the World Bank in 1989, Professor Zachariah joined Kerala's prestigious Center for Development Studies as an honorary professor, a position that he held until his passing. At the age of 95 in 2019, Professor Zachariah founded this remarkable institution, the International Institute of Migration and Development. This he doubtless looked upon as the zenith of his stellar career, embodying as it does all the ideals and aspirations he had sought tirelessly to safeguard and attain. In addition to the foregoing, Professor Zachariah was a scholar extraordinaire. One need only cast a glance at his long list of publications, many of which are on display, as you know, on the table just outside this hall, to see and gauge the prodigiousness of his output. With over 7 decades of research experience, he published extensively in both national and international journals of great repute on the social, economic, political, and demographic implications of international migration, and his path-making research on the migration of Keralites to the Gulf significantly influenced numerous policy initiatives in our state. He blazed a scholarly trail whose dividends other Indian states are reaping as well. As Dr. Irudaya Rajan has mentioned, the Kerala model of migration survey has been replicated in Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Gujarat, Goa, Jharkhand and Odisha. Of course, assisting Professor Zachariah in these laudable ventures was indeed Professor S. Irudaya Rajan himself, and the two of them together initiated the Kerala Migration Survey, the first ever major migration survey in India, whose silver jubilee we are marking this year. Since 1998, the KMS has brought out 8 resoundingly successful editions, with the 9th edition, the Kerala Migration Survey 2023, being still in the works, I understand, but about to emerge very soon. And as I said, while Professor Rajan and I have already shared the stage a few times to launch a couple of books, including one of his own, I'm thrilled to be here in your midst as we launch Migration in South Asia. Is that still the plan? Good. This is a magisterial volume that Professor Irudaya Rajan has brilliantly edited. And when I, in preparing this address, clicked on the link to the book's webpage that the editor himself had shared with me, I was pleasantly surprised to find that it is available online in full, and that too free of cost. That such a remarkably curated work of scholarship should have open access online is a fact that I find greatly heartening, for I'm certain that would be of great interest and help, not only to scholars of migration, sociologists, anthropologists, political scientists, economists, but to the countless curious souls who populate the internet and are always looking for new insights and new nuggets of information. As one who zealously desires and seeks to work towards the creation of an infinite knowledge base that is a global commons for all of us, an intellectual global commons, I really applaud this very impressive venture. Now, much like Professor Zachariah, we all know Professor Rajan too is an exceptional scholar. Aside from being the founder chair of this institute, he's been a professor at the Center for Development Studies and is at present the chair of the wonderfully named NOMAD with a K, the Global Knowledge Partnership on Migration and Development, alongside being a member of the World Bank's Working Group on Internal Migration and Urbanization. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he was part of the Government of Kerala's Expert Committee, a role for which he rendered immeasurable service to our state by advising our government on how to navigate the cataclysms of that agonizing and arduous period. Having published in both national and international journals on the social, economic, demographic, psychological, and political implications of migration on individuals, on communities, and on countries, Professor Rajan is, of course, also the editor of the annual India Migration Report and the South Asia Migration Report, both published by Rutledge. It is therefore, once again, a pleasure to share this dais with him. Now, in the broader context, and I'm conscious that I am not going to deliver a lengthy substantive lecture, we'll have another opportunity for that, but just to touch base on a few points before one abandons the mic on this distinguished commemoration, since we have so many speakers here. I just want to say that the challenges faced by Kerala's youth leading to greater migration, a subject on which both Professor Zachariah and Professor Rajan have worked, have been preoccupying me for quite some time. And some of you who follow Kerala politics will probably have noticed, if nowhere else, at least on YouTube, that I have made a number of speeches on this theme already. So I won't belabor the point, but I remain gravely concerned about the continuing upward curve of youth migration in the state, which is in many ways a reflection of the economic doldrums the state is in, the horrendous unemployment situation. We have the highest youth unemployment in the country after Jammu and Kashmir, where there is militancy still going on, and the highest educated unemployment in the entire country by far. And this is something that requires, I believe, further study and investigation. One of the reasons I accepted this invitation to speak here was precisely because I'm counting on Professor Irudaya Rajan to give me some substantive inputs and advice to formulate a serious policy approach. It is my own belief that the slowing down of the Gulf boom, the increasing return of migrants from there, and the continuing persistence and annual increase in the departure of young people is causing a serious dramatic demographic problem for Kerala. I was struck by one very simple fact that 50.1% of the population of India is under 25, but in Kerala only 23% is under 25. Both a reflection of lower birth rates and dramatically large numbers of migrants. And I do believe the answer to this will lie in significant education reforms, again another subject I've spoken about, and much, much greater ease of doing business to encourage companies to move to a state that they have long since forsaken because of their unwillingness to risk their capital in our state. And I think if we can't produce enough jobs in the state to attract and retain young people, outflow of migrants to other parts of the country and to foreign countries is only going to be an accelerating phenomenon. And then, as one young man said to me when I asked him why he was seeking to go abroad, he said to me, "Sir, what is there for me in this state? Isn't Kerala now becoming an old age home?" Now, many of us may need old age homes before too long, but I don't think we want to see our state being reduced to that stereotype. And I do believe that there is much to be done, both in the area of education and in the area of employment, the generation of employment through ease of doing business, a cliche we've heard too often from our Prime Minister in Delhi and not heard often enough in this state, where we still have a number of strikes against us. It takes you 3 days to open a business in the US or in Singapore. It takes you still an average of 114 days in India, and in Kerala it takes you 236 days. So a very serious approach towards slashing regulation and bureaucratic processes, towards banning hartals, which we are the only state that likes to resort to at the drop of a baton, and the institution of an Investor Protection Act that I've been proposing for the last couple of years, which will create a genuine ease of doing business to bring more jobs and job generation to Kerala, remains top of my agenda. These two E's, education and employment, will, in my view, lead to the kind of business environment that we would all applaud and give us, at the end, the empowerment that Kerala's youth so sorely lack. So I would like very much to commend the Institute on its important work in upholding the fine legacy of Professor Zachariah, and I would certainly hope that his contributions, sustained and built upon by Professor Irudaya Rajan and his colleagues, will give us enough data to have a professional and serious approach towards reversing a trend that over the years went through the phase of being a boon to Kerala as lots of remittances came in, and is now increasingly looking like a serious danger to the future of Kerala. Thank you all very much.